So, going further about negotiating power, I'm going to take a story from my family's past. Um, Now, this story was told to me about my parents once, and it was when I was a young adult. And I just think in the background there must have been discussion. Well, we should maybe tell Jody this story just so she knows the context, just once, because it's kind of like a family secret, I guess. So this is the story that I was told. Shortly after my mother had me, my dad, who was a doctor, and I love my dad, but definite misogynist tendencies there, ran off with a nurse to England and left me and my mom. Who knows what was going on with my mom? She may have been depressed, postpartum, who knows? But that was bad. So my mom, being the strong woman that she is, she moved back in with my grandmother, and her father, and my Aunt Joyce, who was 15 at the time, and I'm sure that's where, thank God, because my Aunt Joyce was more my mother than my mom. Just really bonded with me as a baby. But she wrote my dad, and she said, "Look, if you ever want to see your daughter Jody again, you're gonna leave that bitch, and you're gonna come back here." And we're gonna go basically be digital nomads. So they were like, my mom loves to travel. And thank God she had that negotiating power, right? Because nowadays, women don't. Nowadays, it really seems like the only people that have negotiating power with children are the men, are the fathers. And I'm going to attach an article about what's happening, the real things happening in family court here is just horrific. So there really isn't a benefit for a woman to have children other than just, having children. I loved my children, and being a mother was like the best thing that ever happened to me. But other than that, there's no benefit for women to have children. And I really don't think they should. Not with men, anyway. Perhaps with a woman. But with men, it's just way too dangerous. They're using our kids as living hostages. But back then, my mother was able to say to my father, "If you ever want to see Jody again, get your ass back here." And my dad, I guess, who loved me, did. So he left this nurse, came back to my mom, and then they went to Europe with me, little Jody, and traveled around for, I think, like a year. Really like original digital nomads, right? And then we landed in Israel, and my dad did some study on like hand surgery there. So my first language was actually Hebrew. English with my family, but then Hebrew with being in Israel. I think that saved me because attunement is so important. And my parents weren't necessarily, great parents. They didn't have any therapy at that point. They weren't great parents. They weren't really emotionally or spiritually or psychically available necessarily. But I had a whole year at some really critical time in my brain growth where I had their undivided attention. And I think that's saved my life, saved my mind, made me strong. And so, yeah, I recommend that to everyone.